He inspired a whole generation before bodybuilding was even cool. A guy who turned sweat into legacy, strength into motivation, and muscle into a message. In this story, you're not just going to meet a champion. You're about to discover a legend who went way beyond the stage and left his mark with attitude, discipline, and charisma. If you truly love bodybuilding, this video's for you. So you already know what to do. Grab your pre-workout and come with us. Cause today the inspiration is going to hit harder than the pump. Before becoming a bodybuilding legend, George Eiferman was just a regular kid from Philly, born on November 3rd, 1925. From early on, he was full of energy and had a thing for sports. But nobody could have guessed that this young guy would become one of the biggest names in the history of bodybuilding. And it all started in the unlikeliest place, right in the middle of World War II. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, George made a bold move. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy. Life there was tough and full of uncertainty, but it was in that harsh environment that he found an unexpected escape: weight training. While others looked for ways to deal with fear and loneliness, George started lifting weights on the ship to ease the stress. And get this, he packed on 40 pounds, around 18 kilos, of pure muscle during his service. When he turned 21 and left the Navy, George came back home with a new body and a new purpose. He knew he was different, and he wanted to use that transformation to fuel something greater. So he signed up at a gym in Philly, ready to push his limits as a bodybuilder. The discipline he picked up in the military was now his biggest asset in the sport. After just 1 year of serious training, Eiferman snagged his first big win, Mr. Philadelphia, in 1947. That trophy was more than just a win. It was proof that he was on the right track. The title opened doors and brought even bigger challenges, like the prestigious Mr. America contest, where he was already showing signs he could go way further. In 1948, George made history by winning Mr. America. His symmetrical build, sharp muscle definition, and confident stage presence wowed the judges and the crowd. More than raw strength, he radiated balance and aesthetics, something rare even back then. That one cemented his place among the sport's elite and kicked off a whole new chapter in his life. With that title under his belt, Eiferman became a national sensation. Magazines, newspapers, and events started chasing him, and the kid from Philly became a key figure in the fast-growing world of bodybuilding. But what really won people over was his humility. Fame never got to his head. He stayed grounded and hungry to keep evolving, both physically and personally. After his Mr. America glory, George Eiferman followed the natural path for anyone chasing big dreams in bodybuilding. He moved to California. There, he found not only better weather and more opportunities, but also the perfect environment to take his career to the next level. At Muscle Beach in Santa Monica, George began training with other legends of the sport, becoming a living part of the scene that defined bodybuilding's silver era. Muscle Beach wasn't just a place to lift, it was an open-air stage where physique met performance. Eiferman quickly stood out among the athletes posing under the California sun. His natural charisma, combined with a perfectly balanced and aesthetic body, made him a crowd favorite and a media darling. In no time, he wasn't just another bodybuilder. He was a symbol of that entire era. While many bodybuilders focused on brute strength or sheer mass, George stood out with his symmetry and proportion. Broad shoulders, full chest, and chiseled arms gave him a look that was hard to match. Every pose was deliberate. Every routine was dialed in. He wasn't just training his body. He was mastering the art of performing on stage, like a true showman. But George didn't let early fame make him complacent. Even after his Mr. America title, he kept training and competing with the same drive and passion. And years later, in 1962, at 36 years old, an age when most athletes were already calling quits, Eiferman stepped back on stage and claimed the coveted Mr. Universe title. A victory that didn't just crown his career, but prove his incredible longevity in the sport. That late career one revealed something essential about George. He wasn't it just for the trophies. He was driven by purpose. His love for bodybuilding went way beyond the stage. For him, it was a lifestyle, a way to build health, discipline, and self-esteem. And that mindset was exactly what kept him active, strong, and competitive even as the years went by. Beyond competing, Eiferman became a true ambassador for the sport. At a time when bodybuilding was still misunderstood and often judged, he helped show the world that behind every muscle, there was art, science, and real human values. His image became a symbol of inspiration, not just for athletes, but for everyday people striving for a better life. George wasn't satisfied with just being a champion. He wanted to make a difference in people's lives. That's how he began his mission as a health educator and motivational speaker. Instead of chasing the spotlight in the fitness world, he started visiting schools all over the U.S. as part of the National School Assemblies of America program. His goal? To inspire a whole generation to care for their bodies, their minds, and their life choices. He believed deeply that bodybuilding wasn't just about muscle. It was a powerful tool for personal transformation. In his talks, George shared his story. A skinny kid who found weightlifting during the war and, through discipline and effort, became a champion. And he told it with such passion and honesty that it really hit home with his audiences. But George wasn't your typical speaker. His presentations mixed strength, music, and humor. He'd lift heavy weights on stage, play the trumpet, and crack jokes, a wild combo that left kids in awe. Once he had their full attention with his feats, he'd slide in some real talk about health, discipline, and taking care of your body. Plenty of people who heard him back then still talk about how much of an impact it had. He'd tell stories about soldiers in the war who couldn't climb into lifeboats because they lacked the strength, and how training your body could literally be the difference between life and death. For George, strength wasn't just about looks, it was survival, dignity, and being ready for the real world. His message encouraged students to ditch bad habits like being sedentary, smoking, and drinking, and replace them with healthier routines like exercise and balanced nutrition. He knew that if he earned young people's respect with his example, he'd have the power to plant real seeds of change. And he planted thousands of them across the country. George also had a rare gift. He made bodybuilding feel human. He didn't talk like some untouchable athlete. He was open about his struggles, doubts, and limitations. And the fact that he still made it? That's what made his message feel real and relatable. For many people, it was the first time they saw bodybuilding as a legit way to build confidence and improve their health. He took training as seriously as he took life. To him, lifting wasn't just about building a great physique. It was a reflection of how you took care of your mind, a discipline, and your overall well-being. His training philosophy was simple but powerful. Work the entire body, consistently and with purpose. 3 sessions a week were enough, as long as each one was done with focus, intensity, and respect for your limits. His method centered around fundamental exercises and compound movements. Instead of splitting body parts across the week like most do today, George preferred full-body workouts every time he trained. Hack squats, flat bench press, dumbbell overhead presses, cheat rows, biceps curls, and ab work formed the core of his routine. This way, he stimulated his whole body and kept the muscular balance that became his trademark. Among all exercises, the bench press held a special place in his training. George considered it the king of upper body workouts. He'd switch between wide, narrow, and medium grips using both barbells and dumbbells. His goal was to hit the chest from all angles for maximum development. And he didn't just go through the motions. He'd throw in supersets and stretch between sets to boost muscle stimulation and expand his ribcage. Another interesting detail was his approach to squats. He performed them with speed and volume, often going for sets of 15 to 20 reps. George believed that you're only as young as your legs, so he gave extra attention to his lower body. Squats, for him, weren't just about aesthetics. They were a foundation for vitality, energy, and total body health. The simplicity of George's routine hid a deeper wisdom. Flashy, over-the-top exercises weren't what brought results. It was consistency and precision. He made it clear that you didn't need to spend hours in the gym or rely on fancy equipment. What really mattered was discipline, dedication, and good technique. That mindset made his method accessible to anyone, no matter their fitness level or physical condition. Eiferman also emphasized the importance of rest between sets. He recommended up to 3-minute breaks to allow proper recovery and maintain strength. This balance between effort and rest helped him avoid injuries and keep his performance high for decades. It was like his body was a finely tuned machine, strong, efficient, and built to last. To George, bodybuilding was about much more than weights and mirrors. He saw the sport as a complete lifestyle built on three key pillars: physical training, proper nutrition, and mental strength. Without that balance, he believed, no athlete could reach their true potential. That perspective stayed with him throughout his entire life, guiding his choices, habits, and the way he inspired others. His diet was simple and practical. George stuck to high-protein meals to feed his muscles, healthy fats for energy and hormonal health, and carefully managed carbs depending on his training phase. He didn't follow extreme diets or trendy fads. He knew the secret was consistency. He ate with purpose, respecting his body's needs and prioritizing food quality over gimmicks. But George's real edge was his mindset. He was a fierce advocate of daily discipline. To him, the difference between someone who gets results and someone who quits was the ability to stay focused even on the hard days. His philosophy was clear: consistency brings results. That phrase, which he repeated to himself and his students, became a motivational mantra that grounded his routine with determination. George believed that the true champion was the one who trained even when motivation was nowhere to be found, the one who made the right choices even when no one was watching. His strength came from within, a deep commitment to personal growth. And that mindset wasn't just for bodybuilding, it applied to life as a whole. In every area, he taught that success was a matter of attitude. Rest was also a key part of his balanced routine. Eiferman saw sleep as crucial for muscle recovery and hormonal balance. He avoided overtraining and paid close attention to his body's signals. He understood that without recovery, there's no real progress. The body needs time to rebuild after heavy stress. That kind of wisdom, often overlooked by younger lifters, was one of the secrets behind his long-lasting career. His approach also included emotional control. George knew how to deal with frustration, plateaus, and the ups and downs of athletic life. He built a resilient mindset, one that didn't fold under pressure. That mental strength made him not just physically powerful, but admirable as a person, someone who faced every challenge with calm and conviction. George's fame reached far beyond the bodybuilding world and into the public spotlight with ease. In the 1950s, he performed on stage alongside the iconic actress Mae West, becoming a symbol of strength, beauty, and charm. His presence stood out not just because of his looks, but because of the way he captivated audiences with warmth and charisma. Wherever George went, people took notice. His talent and image brought him close to major figures in entertainment and bodybuilding. He worked with Steve Reeves, sharing not just the stage, but the belief that health and aesthetics go hand in hand. George also had close ties with Lou Ferrigno and a young Arnold Schwarzenegger, who undoubtedly absorbed some of his wisdom and pioneering spirit. He was respected not just as an athlete, but as a mentor and advisor. Even in pop culture, his influence left a mark. Eiferman crossed paths with big names in film and music like Marilyn Monroe and Rock Hudson. But one of the most interesting stories was with Elvis Presley. In the 1970s, when the king of rock was struggling with his health and weight, it was George who stepped in to help him get back on track. His reputation as a wellness coach was so solid that even A-list celebrities trusted him to guide them. By the 1980s, firmly established as a fitness icon, George began hosting a TV segment called Take 5 for Fitness on Fox 5 in Las Vegas. The show brought training tips and health advice to everyday viewers, reinforcing his lifelong mission to make fitness knowledge accessible to all. With a friendly tone and positive attitude, he spoke directly to regular folks, showing that anyone could improve their life through physical activity. Despite his media presence, George never lost touch with who he was. Even with all the fame, he stayed true to his core values: discipline, integrity, and the desire to change lives. He never chased the spotlight out of ego. He saw it as a chance to take his message further. Every platform was another opportunity to inspire, to plant more seeds of transformation. That ability to move between the worlds of sports and entertainment made Eiferman a one-of-a-kind figure. He was respected behind the scenes in Hollywood and admired in gyms across the country. Wherever he went, he left a trail of motivation, wellness, and authenticity. His name became synonymous with vitality and dedication, a true global ambassador for bodybuilding. Behind the stage lights, trophies, and cameras, George lived a personal life rooted in love, partnership, and strong values. He was married to Toby Kessenberg, a woman who also lived and breathed fitness. Their connection went far beyond mutual admiration. It was a true partnership built on shared goals, unconditional support, and a mutual passion for a healthy lifestyle. Together, they weren't just living the bodybuilding life. They were promoting it as a way of life. Their union brought 2 children into the world, Sean and Leah. George made it a point to be an active father, passing on the same values that had shaped him as an athlete and a man. For him, true success had to reflect at home as well. Sean and Leah were raised in an environment that valued discipline, but also love, compassion, and care for others, a clear reflection of their father's character. George believed that mental and physical health started at home. He took his role as a husband and father seriously, always striving for balance between his demanding career and his family life. Despite a busy schedule, he carved out time for quality moments and to pass on life lessons to his kids. This dedication to his family only reinforced the image of a man who lived with purpose in every area of his life. His sister, Eleanor, also carried the athletic spirit. She was a professional bowler. That love for physical activity and personal challenge clearly ran in the family. Other close relatives were also into sports and recreational fitness, expanding the reach of a legacy built on sweat, passion, and pride. But beyond just being physically active, what truly united the Eiferman family were the values they lived and shared daily: respect, hard work, generosity, and ethics. George taught through example, showing that real strength isn't just in the muscles, it's in how you live your life. These lessons echoed through the generations and continue to inspire those who came across his story. Even with all the fame and demands of the spotlight, George never let the public side of his life overshadow his essence. On the contrary, he used his visibility to strengthen his personal relationships. He knew that real success is measured by what you build with the people closest to you, and in that, he was a true champion too. George's legacy goes way beyond the trophies he earned. In 2000, his contribution to bodybuilding was officially recognized when he was inducted into the IFBB Hall of Fame, a tribute that placed his name alongside the greatest in the sport's history. But the truth is, his influence was already immortalized long before that. In every school he visited, every workout he led, and every life he inspired to change through fitness. And here's a fun twist. Even the entertainment world paid tribute to his image. Back during World War II, a Navy cook who served alongside George was so blown away by his physique and charisma that he later created a cartoon character inspired by him, George of the Jungle. The animated parody, blending Tarzan's jungle style with Eiferman's unforgettable presence, became a pop culture hit in the 1960s, a quirky but undeniable reminder of how his influence reached far beyond the gym. Even after stepping away from competitive bodybuilding, George never stopped being a role model. He kept training, writing, teaching, and motivating people to take care of their health and bodies with intention. His methods and lessons were picked up by big names like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but also by countless everyday lifters who found in George's words that extra spark they needed to keep going. To Eiferman, bodybuilding was a tool for personal growth. His greatest legacy wasn't a trophy. It was proving that anyone with real dedication could grow, not just physically, but in character, discipline, and self-worth. He helped shape a generation that saw working out as more than just aesthetics, as a path to becoming a better version of yourself. The respect he earned from fans and peers remained untouched over the decades. In a sport where many fade after their stage days are over, George stayed relevant until the very end, a wise, respected voice in the community. He became one of those rare icons who don't need social media trends to be remembered. Just say his name, and bodybuilding lovers' eyes light up. His impact lives on through the gyms he founded, the shows he hosted, the talks he gave, and the generations he inspired, both directly and indirectly. Above all, George was an ambassador for well-being. A man who used his life to prove that taking care of your body is an act of dignity and self-respect. Over time, so many stories and admiration surrounded his image that some myths started to form. One of the funniest? Some sources claimed he won Mr. Olympia in the 90s, which is impossible. By then, George had long since retired and was focused on mentorship and legacy. These kinds of mix-ups only show how mythical, almost legendary, he's become in the minds of bodybuilding fans. The truth is, his prime was between the 1940s and 1960s, when he won titles like Mr. America and Mr. Universe. That's when he built his rep as one of the most aesthetic and proportionate physiques of all time. The fact that his name still comes up decades later, even when the facts get muddled, just proves how deep his mark on the sport really is. George became bigger than records. He became a symbol of an entire era. That era is known as the Silver Era, a time when bodybuilding aimed for a more classic and natural ideal. The focus was on muscle harmony, health, and functional performance. Athletes looked like living statues, inspiring physiques that blended beauty and strength. And George was the perfect embodiment of that ideal, sculpted, balanced, and full of life. While modern bodybuilding is often linked to extreme mass and heavy use of substances, Eiferman's philosophy pointed to something more real. He chased physical development through discipline, nutrition, and consistent effort. It was a more sustainable, more human approach, and maybe that's why people still hold him in such high regard. Even though he never competed in Mr. Olympia, George achieved something many champions from that stage never did: lasting relevance. His name still shows up in forums, articles, and videos as a source of wisdom, a symbol of healthy living, and a true inspiration. He didn't need the title to be remembered. His mindset and values spoke louder than any medal ever could. And that brings us to something worth thinking about. What really makes an icon timeless? Is it the number of trophies or the impact left on people's lives? George Eiferman reminds us that true recognition goes beyond dates and records. It lives in the respect he earned, the ideas he shared, and the admiration he still inspires. George Eiferman's story isn't just about muscle and medals. It's a life lesson in discipline, health, purpose, and inspiration. Even after his passing in 2002, his legacy lives on in everyone who lifts weights, not just chasing a better body, but a more meaningful life. Eiferman showed us that real strength goes way beyond the stage. It's in the daily choices we make and in the example we leave behind. If this video inspired you in any way, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and share stories like this with more people. Want to support us even more? Consider becoming a member of the channel. Go ahead and subscribe now, turn on that bell, and drop a comment below. What inspired you most about George's journey? What lesson are you taking into your own life? And of course, if you love stories like this one, there's a special video waiting for you right here on the end screen.